It's hard to explain what it means to have a stepmom. It's like carrying a suitcase packed with complicated feelings, resentment, hope, jealousy, admiration, all tangled together in a way that makes it impossible to separate one from the other. Growing up, I didn't think I'd ever say those words. I touched my stepmom. But it's not what you think. It's a story of heartbreak, healing, and discovering the strength of a woman I never thought I'd learn to love. I was 13 when Dad married Lila. She was everything my mother wasn't. Young, elegant, with a calm presence that made every room feel serene. My mother had been loud, quick to anger, but fiercely loving. Losing her had torn a hole in my heart that I didn't think could ever heal. Watching Dad move on felt like a betrayal, like he was leaving Mom behind for good. At first, I refused to acknowledge Lila's presence in our home. I'd slam doors, skip dinners, and spend hours locked away in my room, blasting music in defiance. Dad tried to talk to me, but every time he said, "Give her a chance," it felt like he was asking me to forget Mom. Lila, on the other hand, never pushed. She'd just stand there, arms crossed gently over her chest, waiting. I hated that calmness in her eyes. It made me feel like she was winning, like she was too perfect to fight. One evening, I remember coming home from school to find her in the kitchen, humming to herself as she diced vegetables. The smell of onions and tomatoes made my stomach grumble, but I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me eat her food. I stomped past her and reached for the fridge. My hand brushed against hers by accident. So lightly it felt like a spark, and I recoiled as if burned. She turned her head and looked at me, a softness in her eyes I didn't want to see. "It's okay, honey," she whispered. "It's just me." But I wasn't ready to accept that. I stormed upstairs and buried myself in my pillow, telling myself I'd never call her anything but Lila. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. She tried. Oh, how she tried. She left little notes in my backpack, telling me to have a good day, or that she'd packed my favorite snack. She never raised her voice, even when I was at my worst. Sometimes, I'd find her sitting in the living room, reading a book, her face lit by the glow of the lamp, and I'd feel this inexplicable pang of longing, like I wanted her to put the book down and see me. One night in late autumn, the power went out. A storm had blown through, leaving the house in darkness. A storm had blown through, leaving the house in darkness. Dad was away on a business trip, and it was just Lila and me. I sat on the couch, hugging my knees, listening to the wind howl outside. A crack of thunder rattled the windows, and I flinched. Without a word, Lila lit a candle and placed it on the coffee table. Its flickering light painted her face in gold and shadow, making her look almost magical. She sat down beside me, her warmth close enough to touch. For a moment I wanted to scoot away, but then I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of safety. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my forehead. Her touch was so gentle that it made my chest ache. Tears welled up before I could stop them, spilling down my cheeks. I hated how vulnerable I felt. "It's okay to miss her," she said softly, her voice wrapping around me like a blanket. "I miss her too. She was part of your story, and she always will be." I couldn't hold it in any longer. I buried my face in her shoulder and cried. She didn't flinch, didn't move away. She just held me, her arms around me like I'd always wanted them to be. And in that moment, I touched my stepmom, not just physically, but in a way that broke through every wall I'd built. I let her in. From that night on, things began to change. Slowly but surely. I started helping her in the kitchen, watching how she carefully sliced vegetables, how she always made sure to leave the last piece of dessert for me. Sometimes, she'd catch me staring, and she'd smile, her eyes crinkling at the corners. That smile did something to me, made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone anymore. One day after school, I came home to find her in the garden, trimming the roses Mom had planted. My heart twisted at the sight. I walked over, unsure of what to say. She looked up, dirt smudged on her cheek, and gave me that warm, patient smile. "Wanna help?" she asked, holding out a pair of gloves. I hesitated for a moment. then slipped them on, and together we tended to Mom's roses. It felt like a bridge between two worlds, the life I'd lost and the one I was slowly learning to embrace. We spent hours in that garden, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about her childhood, how her mother had died young, and her father had remarried. How she'd once been the girl standing in the shadows.